This is a 2025 Chevrolet Trax LT, and affordable is back, so let's get into it. Those who don't know, the Trax has been around for at least 10 years that I know of. And in last year in 2024, they revised the body and come out with this style, and this is the second year of this body style. And I'm a big fan of it. I've been saying for a long time that GM needs to make more affordable cars. And while this is not the high end, the highest end trim, it's certainly not the lowest. This is an LT option. They have it with an RS option, and they also have it as the base model, and then they have the active, which is the high end. And one thing that I want to show you with the high end that I noticed the other day was these bars right here, they disappear on the active, and it's more of a streamlined front end look. I don't mind this, but I kind of like the active trim front end a little better. This has got the dual LED bar and LED headlights, alloy wheels, and I'm not going to go into some of the, deep dive into all the options, but we'll give you a pretty good overview of what this car is. And, the best part is that I don't know if you guys can see this, but try and get a shot of it. 2025 Trax LT. We'll get to the motor in a minute. Has a 1.2 turbo, and it's $28,000. Now, the catch to all of this is that this car is made in Korea. And before you go knocking the Korean stuff, they make good cars in Korea. I just wish they built this car in the US or Canada to keep it affordable, but this is not to take away from this car. This does, because this is an LT, it has the keyless entry where there is no key, right? But if you have a key in your pocket, you can grab the handle, it unlocks. Again, coming over on the driver's side, you got all your controls and whatnot for your radio, and then your screens, your OnStar for activation and navigation, all that. Plus, it's got the wireless Android Auto. We'll just turn your traction control off. You can do a lot in this screen. Adjust your climate, right? Go over to your radio, and it is a flawless system. I really, really like it. I think that GM has hit the head on this truck, and or car, SUV, whatever you want to call it. And I will tell you that I can understand why people like going to the bigger vehicles. Driving this versus the Malibu that we did, you can kind of understand why people like sitting up higher. So again, this is a 1.2 turbo 3-cylinder. And this is the biggest thing from stopping me from getting one of these, is that 3-cylinder turbo, but it's not the first time GM's done this. They've had a lot of success in it. Direct injected, again, keep up on your maintenance and your oil changes. And if you take care of this thing, it should last you quite a while. When we go for our drive, I noticed on the way over here that it's not quite as refined as the Malibu, because it's a 3-cylinder versus a 4-cylinder. But nonetheless, it was a decent drive, but we'll share that with you guys in a couple minutes. One thing that I did notice with this trim is, if I can find the keys that I have, this is the remote. It has auto start, unlock, but it doesn't have anything for the trunk. But there is a button under here beside the camera, and you get lots of storage. Those seats fold down. One thing that I like is it's got the privacy board. And I believe the privacy board on this is an option. So if you're going to buy one of these cars, make sure you get the privacy board. It kind of keeps everything hidden underneath. These are just the back seat mud flat, or the back seat carpets that haven't been installed yet. Underneath the trunk, you've got a full semi-temporary spare tire. I'm just going to put the plate back here. And this is not your cord to charge it. This is the block heater. But lots of good storage. I want to thank Tom Smith for helping us out with this car review. I've been trying to do one of these for a while, and with the new channel, I thought it was a good opportunity to come and do it. Lots of room in the back seat. It's just my gear back here, but lots of good room. I'm 6 feet, and I will tell you that there is more than lots of room back here for what, you know, the front seat is all the way, and I have lots of room in the back. I'm nice and comfortable, so there's lots of room in the back seat. Not a lot of amenities in the back because this is an LT, but you know, this is considered an affordable car. So you have your A and B, A and C USB, some storage, and some cubbies back here. I guess the only thing that I mean, you do have a drink holder back here, but I would like to see some sort of drink down here. But again, I'm not going to knock the car because of it. You have a decent amount of space back here. You know, lots of headroom. Again, because I'm 6 feet, my head's not touching the ceiling. So the interior is not a bad mix of hard plastics and soft, with this hard and then soft here with the white overlay. It's got some blue trims here on the dash. I do like it. I like the blue accent. They do come in different colors. I think the Active comes with a yellow stripe, which I'm not a fan of. But on ERS, if you get the RS package, you get a flat bottom steering wheel. You get RS in the headrest, and then you get red accents here. So it's pretty decent. So there's two screens to this. You have the dual displays. This comes with two radio sizes. This is the bigger of the two. I think it's 11-inch and 9-inch. If you guys know, correct me in the comments. This is the bigger of the two. This screen size doesn't change. I think it just gets a little fancier in the lower end trims, except for the LS. Then you have analog gauges. But pretty decent, good mixture of screens. I'm not overly... I like the new tech, but I'm not a big fan of full screens. But I think that GM has done a decent job of keeping this clean. Everything is well within reach. The HVAC controls are, for the most part, are fairly, they're fairly straightforward. My first time in this truck, or car, whatever you want to call it, I couldn't figure out how to turn the fan down for the AC. But it's this dial here. You just turn it. Usually they have these reversed where the climate control's over here and the fan's over there, but that's okay. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We'll get over on the driver's side in a second. I just want to show you from the passenger perspective. Fairly decent glove box. Up front, you got your 12-volt. You got your 12-volt socket. You got a C and an A, and then you got some storage, cup holders, and then there's your lane centering and all that. Cup holders, some more storage. Fairly decent sized glove box. Pretty good. I like the design of the seats. And this has got a 6-speaker system in it, so it's pretty decent for an LT. It's got all your fancy cameras and all that. And overall, I have to tell you, for again, this is Canadian. It's $28,000, so that makes it mid-24s in the US. This is a pretty good option car for $28,000. And I can understand why GM is selling tons of these. And of course, there's no real incentive on interest rates. I think up here we're 4.9%, where the trucks, are like 0% and stuff. But they're selling tons of these. So they don't need to offer incentives on interest rate. But if they did, these barely sit on lots now. They wouldn't sit on lots if you could get a 0% like I did on my Sonic in 2013, 0%, 84 months. It was a steal not to take. All right, so let's go for a drive. I gotta tell you, I am impressed. This is pretty impressive for $28,000. Take this for a quick strip. So we're gonna do dead stop here. And we're gonna launch this here. Now it'll shred the tires, which I'm not trying to do, but it'll shred the tires off lots. There is a small amount of lag off the get-go, which I would expect for a 1.2 turbo. It's about what I expect. I am pretty impressed at this point. Where I did notice a little bit was while you're going and you're moving gears, this has got a fair amount of tech in it. For $28,000, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm approaching this camper ahead of me here, and it's picking it up. And if I get too close to it, it should slam on the brakes. So we're going to come out of here. So taking off from that stop sign, again, the lag is pretty minimal. Like, it seems like it tries to decipher. Another thing I just noticed, so there's an indicator here. It tells me I'm 1.2 seconds behind the car in front of me, which is kind of impressive. But it's a pretty smooth transition when you're going to shifting gears. This does have the 6-speed automatic in it. It is not a CVT, which is what I like. I'm not a big fan of CVTs. And this thing will get 35 miles to the gallon overall, combined city and highway. I think it'll get probably 35 is what I read on the tag there. Correct me if you guys know. Correct me in the comments, guys, if I'm wrong. But I read 35 miles per gallon, and I would certainly expect that on the highway. But also combined, I would also expect that from a 1.2 turbo. And we'll take it to our little loop here real quick. And it is pretty impressive for the amount of tech in this thing. Again, this is an LT. It is not the highest trim, but it's certainly not the lowest trim. It's kind of the 3/4 range for trim levels. Again, we're going to take it on our loop, and you don't buy this car to be a race car, but when you get yourself into a situation, you want to know that the car is going to handle a certain way. And because this is considered an SUV, it has a higher center of gravity in it, so it's not going to corner like a Camaro or the Malibu. or any other sedan, but it should handle pretty decently. And we're gonna put this thing in the corner, and it does. It, you know, it is pretty impressive. You know, now I have some gravel on these roads, but it holds its own. It does okay. I'm pretty impressed for a small SUV that this thing handles as well as it does. There's not a lot of problems with over and understeer, and I would say overall this is a pretty decent car. I would give it above grade average for $28,000 for all the tech you get, the dual clusters, the dual digital clusters and whatnot, and I'm sold. I think it is not a surprise, as I mentioned earlier, that GM sells a lot of these cars, and I would expect that, you know, now that we've had a year under our belt with a new body design, new motors. The old Trax came with the same motor that came in the Sonic and the Cruise, which was a 1.4 turbo or a 1.8. Actually, I don't know if the earlier ones come with a 1.8, and I think they just moved them all to 1.4s with the turbo. But you could get a 1.8 naturally aspirated or a 1.4 turbo, and those were a huge mistake. They, you know, I don't know a lot of people who haven't blown turbos in their Cruises and their Sonics. So hopefully we don't see this. This got auto shut off after a certain point in time. You're sitting at a light, it'll start it off. You can shut that off. I'm not a big fan of the auto off. I think it's going to blow through starters, and it's just more, I'm not a fan of it. So, but you can turn that off. But really good value for car, and if you want something, you know, a little more less, and you don't want all this tech, you can get the ELS. I think the ELS still comes with the smaller screen, but it has the analog gauges here. We will end it here, guys. If you like the video, make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. As you all know, this is our second channel. CC FPG Garage is our first channel, but this is more different general automotive based. We're going to cover a plethora of different things, from old stuff to new and current stuff, and stuff that's become popular again. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and we really appreciate all your support. I just locked myself in the car. Honestly, I should put that in the bloopers. So I got myself in the back seat, and I didn't know the child locks were on the back door, so I couldn't get out. I had to lean over the seat. Anyways, what a mess. Carry on. So the interior is not a bad mix of hard plastic.